going to show you how to change a single polarity antenna into a dual pole antenna. Now the first step is to remove the antenna mounting bracket, and that's done with these 4 bolts. Use a 13mm socket. And the next step is to remove the antenna mounting bracket. And that leaves us with our waveguide assembly. We're going to remove the single pole waveguide interface, and we're going to replace it with our dual pole waveguide interface. Notice that we've got a round hole in the center versus a rectangle in the single polarity. So a few steps before we put it back on here is you want to make sure that the O-ring is clean and has got new grease on it. So we'll take our tube of grease, put a little bit on our finger, and make sure that this has been cleaned and greased. It's in good condition. The next thing I want to do is make sure that the O-rings that are installed inside the waveguide interface and on the outside have also been greased. So I'll go ahead and put a little bit on here. Okay, so the outer O-ring, there's a retaining pin. You want to make sure that the O-ring goes below that retaining pin. And then we're going to install this into the antenna mounting bracket. Now the antenna mounting bracket is labeled on the inside with some V and H markings. So the antenna mounting bracket is always going to go in the vertical orientation with the V up, and our waveguide interface is going to align that retaining pin. It's going to align with one of these slots. So in our case, we're going to line it up, and we're going to turn it until it drops that pin into the slot. Now we're going to take this, hold on to the front of it, and we're going to install the waveguide interface plus the antenna mounting bracket onto the back of the dish. Once that's on there, we're going to put 4 bolts in to hold it in place. Okay, once we've finger tightened all 4 bolts, we're going to use our socket wrench and we're going to snug it up. But the last step before that is to make sure that our antenna mounting bracket is level. So we're going to set the level on top, and we will adjust the antenna mounting bracket so that we're perfectly level. And then we'll snug up all 4 of these bolts. Okay, now the antenna mounting bracket is securely installed on the back of the dish. The next step is to install the large O-ring on the back of the waveguide interface. First, again, we're going to put some silicone grease on it. Make sure it's completely covered. And we're going to put that into the slot. Then we're going to take our dual mount. We're going to install that on the back of the waveguide interface. You'll notice there's markings. There's a V and an H on either side, so you want to orient this so those are facing upwards and you can read them. And then we'll install our 4 bolts to hold the dual mount in place. Okay, once you've got them finger tight, you want to take your level and put it on top of the dual mount and make sure it's also level. Before we make our final tightening. It's a 13mm socket. There, so you get all 4 bolts tightened on the dual mount interface. The next step is to install the O-ring gasket on the side of the dual mount. And we're going to take our silicone grease and make sure that it's over the whole surface of the O-ring gasket. And there's 1 for each side. Once our gaskets are installed, we'll take the ODU 600 and we're going to mount 1 on each side of the dual mount. Once we get all 4 of them finger tight, you go back through and give them a final tightening. Okay, that completes the installation of our first ODU 600. We're now going to install the next ODU 600 on the other side of the dual mount. Make sure our O-ring gasket is in place. And that completes the installation of the ODU 600 on the dual mount. So what we've done is we've upgraded from a single radio on an antenna to dual radios, thus doubling our capacity over the same link. Now one is on vertical and one is on horizontal polarization.